Many times while watching a film, you think of the film's director. But typically, a director is only involved until the final day of filming. This brings us to the concept of the auteur. An auteur is defined as a filmmaker whose personal influence and artistic control over a movie are so great that the filmmaker is regarded as the author of the movie. The term auteur was coined in 1955 by French New Wave filmmaker François Truffaut, who in many ways was an auteur himself. His own films have their unique trademarks and styles. An auteur is the author of the film. Now, this doesn't just mean they wrote the script necessarily, they might not have. Essentially, they're writing in a visual sense. Everything that you see on screen was handpicked by this author. From pre-production through production and all the way through post. They have a personal touch that can be instantly recognized in every frame, every shot. Often auteurs are writers, directors, producers, and wear many different hats, allowing them to maintain control over all aspects of the production. Some examples of auteur filmmakers are Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese, Ingmar Bergman, Alfred Hitchcock, and even bad filmmakers can be auteurs. For example, Edward D. Wood Jr., the filmmaker who brought us infamously bad films like Plan 9 from Outer Space, Bride of the Monster, and Night of the Ghouls.
Before I let this next clip play out, I just wanted to remind you that this movie was marketed as a legitimate horror movie, and this is what people got.
The difference between an auteur and a director is that the director's job ends on the final day of principal photography. So as soon as they stop filming, the director moves on, his or her job is complete, they get paid, go home. Whereas an auteur filmmaker is involved every step of the way and meticulously scrutinizes over every detail of the film. This can be seen in Wes Anderson's cinematography, his color palettes, and the specific attention to detail on even the tiniest of things. With Quentin Tarantino, his films pay homage to films that influenced him as a director. This can be noted in his cinematography, which pays homage to whatever genre Tarantino is taking on, as well as his costuming, references, and nods to past films that inspired him. An easy way to know whether a filmmaker is an auteur or not is when you're watching the movie, you can spot the director's trademarks. For example, you will always know when you're watching a Tarantino movie. You will always know when you're watching a Scorsese movie. The biggest thing about an auteur is that they contribute heavily to the final film. When you watch it, you get lost into the director's mind. You get lost into their world. There are countless movies made each year and countless directors, but not every movie has a unique style and such a complete vision as some of these masters. In many film productions, the producers are different from the directors, and the directors and producers are different from the writers. This creates kind of a muddying of the waters, and you don't quite get one person's vision. You get some of the producer's vision, you get some of the director's vision, and some of the writer's vision kind of blended together. With an auteur, the filmmaker usually takes on multiple hats. For example, Quentin Tarantino typically produces, writes, and directs his films. He even took a turn at being DOP in one of his movies. They typically have a strong vision that they're able to translate directly to screen. And this is the biggest difference, is that it's a complete picture of what the filmmaker intended versus a somewhat watered down version of what the producer, director, and writers may have envisioned. And often use the same troupe of actors in different roles. With Martin Scorsese, it's usually Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci. With Tarantino, it's usually Samuel L. Jackson, Uma Thurman, and recently Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. If you've never heard of the directors I've mentioned or haven't seen any of their works, I really recommend you begin watching some of them, and you can quickly notice this visual style and the different effect their films produce in comparison to another film you might watch. And the wonderful thing is, when you're starting out making films, you kind of are an auteur already, because chances are you're going to be doing most things yourself. You're going to be learning what your signature and trademark style is. And that's great. Starting out is the perfect time for experimentation and getting ready to develop your own auteur style.